Let me ask you something. Have you ever complimented a woman, thought you absolutely nailed it, and still felt something was missing? She smiled, she said thank you, but later that night, she didn't think about you. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men never hear. It's not that your compliment was bad. It's that it didn't activate anything inside her. And today, I'm going to show you 3 compliments that don't just make women feel good, they make her fantasize, but only when said the right way. Because here's the twist most men don't realize. The words aren't what matter. It's the psychology behind them. And once you understand that psychology, you'll realize why most men accidentally turn powerful compliments into emotional dead ends. Stay with me, because the 3rd compliment, when done correctly, changes how a woman remembers you long after the conversation ends. Let's get something clear first. Women don't fantasize about compliments. They fantasize about how a man makes them feel about themselves. And most men? They compliment the surface, when they should be complimenting the experience. Because if you've ever said, "You're beautiful," and wondered why it didn't spark anything, you're about to understand why. See, here's what happens in that moment. She hears, "You're beautiful," and processes it through a filter you probably don't even know exists. She's heard it before. From strangers, from guys trying too hard, from men who said it hoping for something in return. So your compliment, even if you meant it, gets filed away in the same mental category as every other surface-level observation. It doesn't penetrate. It doesn't linger. It doesn't create curiosity. And without curiosity, there's no fantasy. Now, before we go further, let me tell you what this video is not about. This isn't manipulation. This isn't about saying things you don't mean. This is about understanding how emotion works and speaking to it with precision. Because the men who genuinely connect with women aren't saying different things. They're saying true things differently. And that difference is everything. Before we dive deeper, a quick message. If you've been learning from my videos and you want to support this work, you can subscribe to me on Facebook with a paid membership, send stars, or join my YouTube channel's paid community. Your support helps me create more powerful content for you, and I truly appreciate every bit of it. All right, now let's continue. Compliment number 1. You're different. Now this might sound simple, almost boring, but this compliment, when said correctly, is one of the most powerful triggers in female psychology. Here's how most men say it wrong. "You're not like other girls." Instant mistake. Why? Because it sounds generic, lazy, like a recycled line you've used before. And women can feel that. It also subtly insults other women, which makes her wonder if you'll talk about her the same way later. Now here's the correct version. Instead of saying she's different, you show her how she's different. For example, "I've noticed something about you. You react differently than most people. You don't rush to fill silence. That's rare. Do you feel the difference?" That compliment does 3 psychological things at once. First, it signals attention. You're not guessing, you're observing. And observation requires presence. Presence signals value, because valuable people don't scatter their attention carelessly. Second, it creates identity validation. You're not praising her looks, you're acknowledging her way of being, her choices, her energy, her patterns. And when you validate someone's way of moving through the world, you're validating something they control, something they've crafted about themselves. That hits deeper than genetics ever could. And third, this is the fantasy trigger. It makes her feel seen. When a woman feels seen, her imagination turns on. Because now she's wondering, what else does he notice about me? Because once she starts asking that question internally, you're already in her thoughts. Most men rush compliments. They throw them out like confetti. But compliments that spark fantasy are slow, precise, almost curious. You're not trying to impress her, you're discovering her. And discovery is intoxicating. Think about it this way. When someone studies you, really studies you, it creates a mirror effect. You start studying yourself through their eyes. You start noticing the things they notice. You start wondering what patterns they're picking up on. You start becoming more conscious of your own presence. That's not attraction yet. That's awareness. But awareness is the soil where attraction grows. Compliment number 2. You make me feel. This is where most men freeze, because they've been taught that expressing feelings is weak. But here's the psychological truth. Women don't fantasize about emotionally unavailable men. They fantasize about men who are emotionally grounded. Big difference. Unavailable means shut down. Grounded means selective. One comes from fear. The other comes from strength. Now here's how men usually mess this up. You make me happy. You make me nervous. You make me feel good. Too vague, too safe, too forgettable. The correct version focuses on impact, not emotion. For example, when I'm talking to you, I notice I slow down, like the rest of the world gets quieter. That's not emotional dumping. That's emotional leadership. You're not asking her to take care of your feelings. You're simply letting her see her effect on you. And here's the fantasy trigger. When a woman realizes she affects a man without trying, she feels powerful. And power fuels imagination. Because the moment she feels that quiet power, she starts replaying interactions with you. Your tone, your pauses, your eye contact. That's not an accident. That's psychology. Let me tell you something most men don't understand. Women don't fantasize about men who chase. They fantasize about men who are anchored. Men who can feel without leaking need. This compliment works because it says, I'm steady, and you still move me. That combination is rare, and rarity creates desire. Here's why this compliment structure is so powerful. It gives her agency without giving her responsibility. You're not saying, you make me feel this way, so now you owe me something. You're saying, here's what happens inside me when you're around. That's information, not obligation. And when you give a woman information about her effect without pressure, she gets to enjoy that effect. She gets to feel it. She gets to replay it. She gets to wonder about it. And wondering is the beginning of fantasy. Compliment number 3. I trust you with. This is the one most men never use. And it's the most powerful because it activates something deeper than attraction. It activates emotional intimacy. Here's how men usually say it wrong. I trust you. Too flat, too general. Trust only becomes meaningful when it has context. The correct version sounds like this. I don't usually open up about this, but for some reason, it feels easy talking to you. Now stop and think about what that does. You're not confessing trauma. You're not oversharing. You're signaling selective vulnerability. And psychologically, that does something very specific. It places her inside a private space with you. And once a woman feels emotionally chosen, her imagination fills in the rest. Because emotional exclusivity is the seed of fantasy. Not pressure, not compliments about her body, but the feeling of being trusted differently. Here's a secret most men never hear. Fantasy isn't visual, it's emotional. Women fantasize about moments, about tone, about what something felt like, and these compliments create moments that linger. Think about the last time someone trusted you with something personal, not because they had to, not because you asked, but because something about you made them feel safe. How did that feel? It probably made you more protective of that trust, more aware of that person, more curious about what else exists beneath the surface. That's what this compliment does. It doesn't just say, I like you. It says, there's a version of me that only feels safe around certain people, and you're one of them. That's not a transaction. That's a revelation. And revelations create emotional gravity. Now let me show you why most men fail with compliments. They think compliments are statements, but compliments are actually emotional invitations. You're inviting her into a feeling. And if that invitation feels safe, grounded, and specific, her mind continues the conversation long after you stop talking. That's the real goal. Not to get an immediate reaction, not to hear her say something back, but to plant something in her awareness that grows quietly over time. Because now I'm going to tell you when not to use these compliments. Timing matters more than wording. Never use these when you're seeking approval. Never use them to recover from rejection. Never stack them back to back. One compliment, then space. Let it breathe. Let her fill the silence. Silence is where fantasy grows. Because here's what happens in silence. She revisits what you said. She tests it against her experience of you. She wonders if you meant it. She notices how it made her feel. All of that happens in the space after your words. If you keep talking, you interrupt that process. If you wait for validation, you collapse the tension. But if you say something true, and then let it exist without needing anything back, you give it room to work. One more thing before we wrap this up. If you're complimenting a woman hoping for a reaction, she'll feel it, and need kills desire. But if you compliment her from observation, from calm curiosity, you don't chase her imagination, you trigger it. There's a huge difference between, "I'm saying this because I want you to like me," and "I'm saying this because I noticed it and it felt true." Women can sense the difference immediately. One feels like pressure, the other feels like presence. So let's recap quickly. Compliment 1, not "you're different," but how she's different. Show her you've been paying attention. Be specific. Make it about her patterns, not her appearance. Compliment 2, not "you make me feel good," but how she affects your inner state. Let her see her impact without making it her responsibility. Stay grounded. Don't leak need. Compliment 3, not "I trust you," but why it feels easy with her. Create emotional exclusivity. Let her feel chosen. Don't overshare, just reveal. Say these slowly, naturally, without expectation. And you'll notice something change, not instantly, but quietly. And quiet changes last the longest. Because real attraction isn't built in a moment. It's built in the space between moments, in the pauses, in the replays, in the questions she asks herself when you're not around. That's where fantasy lives. And these 3 compliments, when said correctly, don't just create attraction. They create curiosity. And curiosity is what keeps you in her mind long after the conversation ends. If this video made you see attraction differently, make sure you like this video. And if you want more psychology, more truth, and more insight most people never talk about, subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to check out the other videos here. There's a lot more wisdom waiting for you.